following is a presentation of KSL Sports. Hello, Cougar Nation.
Handoff middle. First down. Touchdown. And listen to the Cougar Nation.
Every Monday night, we break down the Cougars' last game and look ahead to next week. Cougar Nation, brought to you by Central Bank. Here's BYU insider Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte on Utah's legacy home of the Cougars, KSL News Radio.
Good evening, Cougar Nation. Mitch Harper, Matt Baiamonte with you. We're coming to you live from Broadcast House in Salt Lake City. BYU football is 3-0. Can you believe it? A team that had only predictions about 4 wins. They've already got to 3 wins, 3-0 on the 2024 season. And we want to hear from you, Cougar Nation, on what this 3-0 start means. What gives you confidence this year's 3-0 start for BYU football will lead to more success in the Big 12 play? We'll discuss that, Matt, but a loaded show for you tonight as the Cougs get a win on the Front Range.
You know the drill, Cougar Nation, 801-575-8255. You can text us as well. 57500. Chime in on our question of the day or any thoughts about this 3-0 BYU football team like we do every single Monday night, Mitch. Let's start things off with our takeaways from the win on the plains of Laramie.
Cougar Nation, takeaways. Mitch and Matt analyze BYU's last week of play and what it means for the next week.
I'll start things off, Mitch. Lot to take away from this game. 34-14. I would have loved if it was 41-14. I was hoping they would let Gary throw a touchdown pass on that final drive. Did not happen. That's fine. I'm nitpicking a little. 34-14, still a solid win. I thought the passing game bounced back in a big way, Mitch. Jake almost throws for 300 yards, 22 of 36. Quarterback rating of 151. You throw in his 62 yards rushing as well, which could have been 100 if there wasn't a questionable hold call on that 40-yard scamper in the middle of the game. We're talking about almost a 400-yard total yard performance for Jake. But it was the passing that I felt needed to improve because against SMU, it took a big step back. And they can't pass like they did against the Mustangs and be a good football team. If you can pass for high 200s, low 300s, you've got a chance to upset some people this year. I really liked how the passing game improved this week.
That's one of my takeaways, too, is that Jake did improve just collectively, the passing game, but also on the ground with his ball security. Kalani said, don't lose the stinking football or whatever it was, paraphrasing, and he didn't. He didn't put it on the turf. But I will say, Jake, when it came to passing the football, he did have some close calls.
Yep. And
a little bit too close for comfort at times in the first half, but he was resilient. I kind of wonder though, Wyoming might be worse than Southern Illinois.
Yeah,
they are pretty bad, and that might be the worst Wyoming football team I've ever seen assembled. And I remember those years in the Mountain West, but they treated them like they were a bad football team. Even Chase Roberts in the postgame said they probably should have won 60-0. So they felt like they maybe missed out on some opportunities. But I do believe Jake, performed well in that game, and he himself said he had some fun in Laramie.
Oh, it was a super fun place to play. Actually, I liked the stadium. I liked the environment. Hostile, of course, but that's what you get on the road no matter what. We did a good job getting out front early, so we didn't have to hear the worst of it. I think that's key on the road. But, yeah, I think it was a cool environment to play in. I like the stadium. Laramie grew on me a little bit this weekend.
Hey, that's kind of him.
Yeah, great.
Did not grow on me.
Hey, these kind of road trips are always more enjoyable when you just handily beat a team. Yes. There's really not a whole lot to be discouraged about. You came in, did what you needed to do, won comfortably, and moved on. Good for this BYU football team. Kalani, Mitch, thought that the team improved from one week to the next. I thought the same thing.
Happy we're 3-0, and proud of the team. Thought the energy, effort, all the stuff that we want from our guys showed up, and it didn't go perfectly, but some really good things to work on and some really good things to get better. I feel like we got better from last week to this week, and looking forward to making improvement from this week to the next.
Did this interview happen because you were there under an underpass? Was this on I-80?
Yeah, the cowboy rifle in the background. No, that was it was like a wrestling mat getting unfoiled. It was in the old basketball arena for Wyoming, their auditorium. But yes, the audio, the sound environment for that was not the best in Laramie. But hey, the accommodations, they were what they were.
My next takeaway, and this might be a deep cut because there's a lot of directions to go. You could go defensively, where they held Wyoming to 217 yards, although the third down conversion percentage not quite as good as I would have liked. 7 of 18 for the Pokes. Would have loved that to have been maybe sub 30% because BYU's third down percentage. And this is a problem. We don't need to dwell on the problems because you won 34-14, but 2 of 11? I know that they had a couple fourth down conversions as well, but that's not good enough, Mitch, when it comes to Big 12 play. However, back to the positive takeaways. Pokai Haunga, wow, that dude really popped in the running game. Miles Davis couldn't get anything going, 8 of 15. Jake was running well, which is great, but you need some kind of compliment. I like Sione Moa as well, but Pokai had a next level, and I loved his shiftiness. He reminded me a little bit of Falau Rapati when he's in the open field. Those are the only 2 guys on this roster from a running back perspective, Mitch, that can sharp cut and make people miss. I thought he brought a nice new element to this running game, and I feel like you got to play this dude more because he is capable of busting off an explosive play at any given moment.
I agree. It's just unfortunate that he has to play because, man, BYU has been banged up. Enoch Nawahine was going through pregame warmups. He was suited up, and then he's not playing. And then he's banged. Come to find out, he got banged up in practice last week. And BYU has had to dig into their depth. The pecking order was Miles Davis, Sione Aimoa, and then Pokai Honga. So you're talking about the 6th-string running back. Pokai looking like a stud. And, I think they ideally wanted to redshirt him this season, but that is clearly not an option. And his talent, you're right. He did show some good flashes, and he was involved in that trick play where you have to have a lot of confidence. And when you toss it back to Jake to make that play happen, you better know your assignment. You better know what to do. And he did, and he came out with a lot of confidence. He was not fazed by the moment. So Pokai definitely showed well. He's a name to keep an eye on for BYU going forward. My other takeaway was Jack Kelly just continues to live to all of the hype that was given to him in the preseason. He was the only guy with a sack. That was a little bit, maybe, I don't know if it's, say discouraging, only finishing with 1 sack. But Sabota, the Wyoming quarterback, he could escape the pocket. But Jack Kelly's outstanding. And even Mel Kiper from ESPN, longtime NFL draft analyst, he said, quote, today, BYU outside linebacker Jack Kelly was relatively unknown in August, but he's quickly rising up NFL draft boards as I have him 5th at the outside linebacker position after 3 weeks. 5th outside linebacker, you're talking what? Top into the third?
Yeah, 2nd or 3rd, late 2nd, early 3rd.
And you know what? Jack Kelly's speed and measurables and size and his versatility gives him a chance to be a legit NFL draft prospect. Jack Kelly's stock continues to rise.
A lot to break down from the 34-14 win. We've asked you, Cougar Nation, what gives you confidence for this year's 3-0 start for BYU football, and will it lead to more success in Big 12 play? Of course, this question of the day and this show, Cougar Nation, brought to you by Central Bank, voted best bank and mortgage in Utah Valley. Visit us online at cbutah.com. Mitch, we already got a text. Then we'll get out to the phone line. But Texter 1557, they will go 3-9. The first 3 games were patsies.
Not a chance. BYU will not go 3-9. Look, the Big 12's solid, but look, the top of the Big 12 right now, the top teams are Oklahoma State, Utah, Kansas State, Iowa State. All 4 of those teams have had moments where they look very beatable, including K-State, and we'll get to that game come up a little bit later this hour, but all of them. Like there's no team in this league that I've watched, and I've watched all 16 of them at some points this season, and I say, oh my gosh, how does BYU hang with those guys? Not once. And I think that's the nice thing about this league. Now, will BYU stay healthy? They've already been tested in the running back unit, but this league, anything can happen every week, and we see this all the time in college football. 1 week Notre Dame's losing to Northern Illinois, and then they just put up a 66-piece on Purdue on the road. And college football is just an isolated 1 week deal now, it feels like. It no longer is it like, okay, what you've known and seen the last 3 weeks is going to carry over to this game. No, I think that every week you better be locked in, you better be dialed in your scout, and executing at a high level. You can't just assume that something's going to happen. Now, look, BYU, could they lose all 9 games? Maybe, I guess, but I highly doubt it. BYU's going to pull off some upsets, but they're also probably going to be upset as well at stretches. I still think BYU is probably a 6-win team right now, and we'll discuss more of our thoughts on how this rest of the season plays out, but this team is better, and I think that's what's exciting coming out of this 3-0 start is that you are seeing evidence that this team is so much better than what they were through the first 3 games last season.
801-575-8255. Give us a call, Cougar Nation. What gives you confidence in this 3-0 start? You can chime in on Jake Retzlaff as well. Did he show something in that Wyoming game that makes you feel better about him being the quarterback going forward? Let's take a break, Mitch. On the other side, we'll get to some of your calls, some of your texts on 57500, and we'll keep breaking down the BYU win against Wyoming.
How many things affect your life as much as slow traffic and bad weather? Listen tomorrow morning for Traffic and Weather Together every 10 minutes on the 9s on KSL News Radio.
We're taking your calls. What gives you confidence this 3-0 start for BYU football will lead to more success in Big 12 play? It's brought to you, Cougar Nation, brought to you by Central Bank. Thanks for having them on board this year. 3-0. Again, BYU has done a really nice job throughout the Kalani era of starting strong. But, Mitch, what gives you confidence this 3-0 start is going to be different?
This defense is one of the best in the Big 12, and that's what gives me all the confidence in the world that this will be a team that gets to a bowl game. I do believe that. This will be a team that goes bowling, they go to the postseason, and maybe they get to 7. I still have my questions at quarterback, and I know that there's a Pro Football Focus grade, and everyone just uses those as the ultimate authority on everything that just evaluates players now is PFF grades. And look, I use them too. I look at them as a point of reference, but it's one data point. It's one source. And they've had weeks where they miss players completely, and it's miscategorized by uniform number, but they're looking at Jake Retzlaff's number, and you go, okay, that's one of the best quarterback ratings among Power 4 QBs. But that first half, there was feelings of there were media in the War Memorial Stadium booth watching the sideline of Gary Bohannon because he was throwing the football a little bit. Now, for some context, watching him throw the football, it didn't feel at any point like this was a guy that's getting ready to go in. It almost just felt like I'm bored. I'm ready to just kind of throw the ball. It didn't feel like, ooh, this is happening. He's going in. It didn't feel like that to me. That's why I didn't make it a big, blast on social media. But still, it was kind of like, Jake's having some close calls here. Do they turn to Gary? And it was interesting, too, and producer Nate probably heard it as well in War Memorial Stadium because he was there. But when Gary did go in for the last drive, there was this loud roar from Cougar fans. It's almost like, thank you, our quarterback is in. Folks, Jake is still the QB1. Please, I know he sometimes can get you frustrated, but he did improve. He did get better. He's just got to clean up some of those decisions where he's throwing it into double, triple coverage, and it almost is a near interception. Just get rid of that, and you have a great game. He took care of the football on the ground. I liked what Jake did, and I think it gave me some confidence, too, going into this Kansas State game that they can take down the Wildcats who are playing at a high level right now.
For me, nothing gives me confidence that this 3-0 start is going to lead to more success in Big 12 play.
Nothing?
Nothing. Because,
what?
Like the texture, I do believe the schedule is soft. And then secondly, I don't trust BYU's offense in a tight situation to continually get it done. I know they got it done against SMU a week ago, but that's SMU. Now we're talking about a top 15 team, Kansas State, coming to Provo. You got Oklahoma State. You got Utah. I don't have confidence that they're going to make enough good decisions and big plays in these games to change things. Your point on the defense, it's well taken. And they needed one side of the ball to be top 4 in the Big 12 if they wanted any chance at being a bowl team. It looks like BYU's defense could be a top 4 defensive team, and that keeps you in the games.
Yes.
With that kind of defense, you're not seeing the TCU blowout. You're not seeing other Iowa State blowout. That's not going to happen. But I don't think they're so good defensively that it means you can overcome mistakes offensively. Okay. And I'm still, because there should have been 3 picks against Wyoming. That deep ball he threw up there where was that his fault? I don't know for sure. It might have been a miscommunication with the receivers. I don't know.
It was closer to the Wyoming DBs than BYU receivers.
It should have been picked. It absolutely should have been picked off.
And just a side note, that number 2 on Wyoming, that guy was a little bit dirty.
For sure.
That dirty hit on Keanu Hill, no appreciation for that.
No.
That guy had a little bit of a attitude that embodied the whole Wyoming, Laramie. And look, I thought it was a pleasant experience. I was fine. Some choice words, clearly. You heard it on the TV broadcast. But I just had to point that out because
that's a good point.
I didn't like that. That guy was kind of gunning for Keanu Hill.
Yep.
And I hope Kibo's okay. He was rattled going into the medical tent, and hopefully he's going to be okay because stuff like that was uncalled for. And so I'm glad that guy didn't get that pick.
It's just the thing is, though, against Kansas State, is that going to be dropped?
No, I don't think so.
I just don't think so.
K-State's got a legit secondary.
Totally. And there was 2 or 3 other plays that probably should have been turnovers. However, I still thought his decision-making was improved. His first interception, that didn't bother me at all. It wasn't a great throw.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It wasn't a great throw, but it was one-on-one. It wasn't a bad decision.
I had a bigger issue with Cody Epps being the jump ball guy.
Yes,
there.
agreed.
Like have it be Chase, have it be Darius Laster, JoJo.
That's the next level of quarterback play where you understand those situations before. And maybe you want to pin that on A-Rod. Like, hey, if we're going to run a fade to the corner, should we run that with Chase Roberts or Darius Lassiter instead? But look, he was good. He was improved, but not enough to make me feel like this is going to lead to more success. I ultimately do think they will have more success, Mitch, because I think the team is better. I just don't believe this start, there's enough tangible stuff there to definitively say, absolutely, they're improved, they're going to win 6 or 7. I don't know if I'm ready to say that yet.
I will also add, too, what gives me optimism is I like the mindset of this team, and I know that's not really something you can measure in a box score, but I just think that this team's got a good mindset going into games where, someone goes down, Micah Harper quietly does not go, and Jacob Robinson handles the nickel spot. Now, we've quietly seen Jacob handle a lot of the nickel reps this season. Sometimes Jonathan Cabella, if there's an opportunity there where they dig into the depth, but primarily Jacob Robinson because Micah has been banged up. He's only played 29 snaps through 3 weeks this season, but they just kind of go next man up. They don't flinch, and a lot of guys have taken snaps this year. And I do like. I don't know what this word means, but it's a cliche buzzword in football. But the culture of this team, I do like it. I like the kind of the attitude. I'm curious to see how they will respond to adversity when it does hit them, and it will at some point. But I think this team's got a good head on their shoulders where they have perspective. They're not fazed by the outside noise. They've kind of kept things isolated from within and focused on getting better themselves. And I really believe in this defense too, that they can win some games where maybe the offense only scores 18 as we saw against SMU, but it's still enough because this defense can be lights out. And I believe in them. I think that this defense, the personnel there, those cornerbacks are locked down, man. Jacob Robinson, Mark Collins. And I know there were some moments where they left some openings, and if Sabota was accurate at all, they probably get a few more yards. But still, I like what I'm seeing from the secondary for BYU, and I think this defense can lead them to the postseason.
We're taking your calls, 801-575-8255. Let's go out to the phone line now. Our good friend Linda. What gives you confidence, Linda? This 3-0 start is going to mean more success in Big 12 play.
Absolutely, and I thought Jake did a good job, and I think he did a lot better this week, and I think he was really good, and I'm sure that we'll keep him in, that the coaches will keep him in, hopefully, and then I really liked, what was the player's name that ran right at, during the third, what was the third
Keelan
quarter?
Marion, the kickoff return touchdown?
Yeah. He was great, I thought too, and that was just so neat. And then I thought it was right to give Gary the chance at the end to score the last touchdown, to help score the last touchdown. I thought he was great too.
Thanks for the call,
Linda.
Linda.
Enjoyed that.
Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Some good points there from Linda. That Marion kickoff return was a game changer because I felt like there was a little Wyoming hope there at halftime that just got completely squashed on that kickoff return. And then I liked seeing Gary too. Gary looked good, shout out to the coaching staff for letting him throw the ball. It was nice to see him run the offense rather than just hand it off the whole time. So that was nice as well, Mitch.
News, traffic, and weather coming up next. More Cougar Nation as we break down what's trending up and trending down with BYU football. And we'll also preview BYU Kansas State. 801-575-8255. Call in or text us. We're answering your calls up till 7 o'clock. Welcome back into Cougar Nation. Mitch Harper, Matt Baiamonte with you. BYU 3-0 on the season. And our question of the day today: what gives you confidence this year's 3-0 start for BYU football will lead to more success in Big 12 play? Because remember last year, BYU was 3-0 after that win over Arkansas. They took down Sam Houston, Southern Utah. And they were riding high. They were knocking on the door of being ranked. And then we know what happened. They ended up 5-7, 2-7 in Big 12 play. The only wins were against Cincinnati, who finished in last place, and then Texas Tech, who had their third-string quarterback. It was not good last year. So we're answering the question, and we want to hear from you. 801-575-8255. What gives you confidence this year's 3-0 start will lead to more success in Big 12 play?
I'll tell you what, a win against Kansas State or even a Oklahoma State type loss from last year, that would give me more confidence than anything I've seen through the first 3 games this year.
Chase Roberts, he feels like there's a big difference between last year's team and this one.
I think the camaraderie that we have as a team, I think other players would say the same thing. Last year when we were in tight situations, we were trying to do more than, we just trust each other, trust the guy next to you, love each other, grab hold and play hard. And I think last year we lacked a little bit of that. This year we love each other, and we're gonna play for each other. And every time offense does something, defense comes and supports us and says, let's go. And every time we're struggling, the defense is going to come and say something, and vice versa. So I think it's just the trust that we have in each other and how much we love each other.
Chase Roberts is an absolute baller, might I add.
Oh, yeah.
6 catches, 129 yards, 8 targets in the game. I loved how Retzlaff was working in Roberts early and often. Matt, I had some questions about this receiver unit, not from the talent. That was always known. The depth was always known. But I wondered who was going to emerge as that wide receiver one. This show and Cougar Sports Saturday, noon to 3 on Saturdays, we've always said it's Chase, but would he, produce like a wide receiver one? We're seeing it because he's outstanding through the early part of the season.
And I like that Jake is targeting him. I think that's something any good quarterback, you need to identify your weapons and you need to get them the football as much as you can. And I like that Jake is targeting him at a high level, and that needs to continue. There needs to be plays run for Chase. You need to get Chase the ball as often as you can. And Chase has proven himself, Mitch, to be a very good contested catcher of the football. Several of those grabs against Wyoming were very difficult catches that he came down with. So Chase is playing at a high level. This passing game, like we said earlier, it's improving, and that does give hope that things could be different in Big 12 play this year.
I thought it was interesting, too, when Chase, after that trick play, comes up with the grab, the 30-yarder. He stands over the Wyoming DB. Instantly, you could tell Kalani was not happy with that. Like, don't get a flag. And Chase even admitted it was funny in the postgame. He said something to the effect of, I was trying to come up with something creative to trash talk because that guy was trash talking, and then I couldn't think of anything creative, so I just stood over him. I was like, I love how honest that was, because typically most football players would not admit that. It's like, yeah, I was jawing back and forth and saying this, but Chase like, I didn't know what to say, so I just stood over him.
What do you think of this? Texter 4888. And you can text us at 57500, your thoughts on the game and the question of the day. If you don't want to call in, we'll take your calls. We love hearing from you over the phone line, Cougar Nation, but text is great too. Defense makes me more confident. That's great. But this next part of the text, I feel like, why are we doing this as a fan base still? Bohannon should start. He can run better, and he is better throwing, and he doesn't turn it over. He's thrown 3 passes. He was 3 of 3. His quarterback rating was outstanding at 175.
That first throw was the best throw I've seen from Gary Bohannon since he arrived on campus. I'm not even kidding. That was a legit throw. Like, You knew when he got the call to throw it, he's like, I'm going to make this look as sweet as possible.
The best throw of the day, without a doubt, and this is why I think Jake is a better quarterback when he's taking care of the football, is when he eluded the sack in the red zone, stepped up in the pocket, and delivered a dart to Darius Lassiter. That's the difference between the two. Gary might be a better runner, but Jake still had 6 for 62. He averaged 10 yards a carry.
And he would have had over 100 had it not been for the holding penalties late in the game.
He's more than adequate in the running game. He's underrated with his legs. His ability to make special plays off script, now, that gets him in trouble a lot too. I'm not saying he's perfect in that regard, but that throw on the run to a Lassiter touchdown, that was a perfect ball. I just can't believe we're still saying that Bohannon should start. Like, I'm not against it if Jake... I mean, Jake's played well.
I just think those near interceptions are where Cougar Nation feels...
But they're near. They're not...
I know, but I think a lot of people are projecting and assuming...
Would you like it if a car insurance company dinged you for your near accidents? Because we've all had many a near accident. No.
As someone who got a speeding ticket going to Laramie this past weekend,
you deserved it.
Yeah, I probably did. I'm not going to disclose with the speed I was going, but I was going a little bit too fast in my rental car. I didn't understand the cadence of the speed of that truck. But, I would hope that they would just assume, like, hey, I'm going to let this one slide. But the thing is that I think a lot of Cougar fans are going, we've seen how BYU stacks up in the Big 12. It is a big jump in talent from the Wyomings and Southern Illinois. We saw a glimpse against SMU, and he struggled. It's that SMU game, not the Wyoming game. And BYU fans, I think, are projecting and saying, this is what it's going to be week after week in the Big 12. I disagree. I think that Jake still should be the QB1, and I don't think there should be this debate of who's QB1. That's why in the press conference, I didn't feel it was necessary to ask Kalani, what are you going to do at quarterback this week? It's not a story.
No.
Because it is Jake's job. But if he has a SMU-like performance again, where he's coughing it up and he's causing disastrous INTs again and losing the football when he runs, then you got to put in Bohannon for that game.
For sure.
But, no. Jake Retzlaff has got to be the guy right now. I mean, he's done enough. You're 3-0. And you got to give him credit. Even that SMU game, he did enough in that game-winning drive to audible out of the play, pitch to Miles Davis. He's done a nice job. And I think we can all agree, yes, he's got some flaws, but he's gotten a lot better. And I think his arm talent has been a lot more impressive this year than what I maybe expected coming in. John Beck, the work he does on quarterbacks, it's noticeable. He looks much improved throwing the football, a lot more power behind his throws. And I think people got to give Jake some credit on that front.
Can we just pump the brakes a little bit, though, on the constant nagging on the starting quarterback?
Hey,
because
it's fun, though.
No
it
haze.
BYU has a high standard of quarterback.
This is becoming a joke. That it doesn't matter what year it is. I vividly remember, Mitch. Vividly remember. And tell me if you remember this too. Fans were wanting Taysom Hill benched in that 2013 year for McCoy Hill. Like, it's every year this fan base is infatuated with the backup quarterback. Like, we got to stop. At some point, we got to just support the guy. And Jake has done nothing to suggest that he can't get you to a bowl game. His numbers are pretty good. He's on pace for like over 3,000 yards and almost 30 touchdowns, and yet we still get texts about the backup. Like, we're 3-0. I just like at some point we got to put a little support behind the guy that is starting. It just feels like it's a decades-long issue with Cougar Nation where he just loved that backup, baby.
Yeah,
and it's getting old.
When he's mentioned Taysom, people wanting Taysom bench, I think back to 2016 when it was Tanner Mangum. I remember it was after the UCLA game that season. I think I wrote a column. You could probably go search it. I said, Taysom needs to stay the starter, no questions asked. But there was a vocal minority, very small, that wanted Tanner at that time. Clearly that was...
You named the quarterback with very few
people
exceptions.
wanted Zach benched.
Yeah, people wanted Zach benched.
Jaron Hall, I don't think he ever...
wanted...
There was never any calls for Jaron, don't you think?
No,
I don't recall that.
I know, I don't either. He wanted, so Jaron was one. I think Max Hall, there wasn't a lot of...
Yeah, no.
But most years, you could point to someone in the shadows as being someone that a fraction of the fan base wanted.
I will say, and I think that the one argument to that is that I think Cougar fans do not want to experience the 2012, potentially, where you go maybe at season's end and at some point you do see Gary and he looks lights out.
2000. I mean, you picked a great quarterback to bring up too, because people want to Riley get out.
That's what I'm saying. And look, it's just because that season, if you had some efficient offense, you probably win 10, 11 games. You probably beat Notre Dame, who played in the national
Riley
title.
broke his back
right
at the beginning of the year.
And James Lark looked pretty dang good.
And Taysom Hill would have led them to some wins if we didn't egregiously have what should have been a victory formation at the end of the Hawaii game turn into a knee injury.
Central Bank voted best bank and mortgage in Utah Valley. Visit us online at cbutah.com. Central Bank, proud sponsors of Cougar Nation. Taking the break. On the other side, we will get to more of your calls and texts. Keep those coming in, 57500, 801-575-8255. We'll preview BYU K-State next here on Cougar Nation.
Something about Cougar Nation, man. It always finds a way to get back to the quarterback position. And the texts are starting to flow a little bit. I want to hear someone, too, call in, 801-575-8255. What is it about Jake that is hard to get behind? I want to know from a fan out there that still wants Bohannon, what is it about Jake? Because we're getting some texts. There's still a fraction of the fan base that wants Gary, Mitch. Texter 4633, I understand what you're saying about standing behind our quarterback, but if we had been playing a good team, there would have been at least 3 interceptions. That may be true, but you're 3-0.
Well, we will find out this week.
Yes.
We will find out.
So what
this
happens if he throws 2 picks, but you win against Kansas State? Is it going to be the turnovers is still a problem? Or are we going to say you just took down a top – like, the result is what we're all after here, ultimately. We're talking about wins and losses, Mitch, and he's 3-0.
Yep, I agree.
He's improved. Is he Steve Young? Is he Jim McMahon? He's not. But that's okay. Like you're winning some football games, for heaven's sakes. I'm just like, it's not like we're 0-3. That'd be different.
Even the TV announcers, though, were adding gasoline to the anti-Retzlaff crowd, where another interception. It was almost like
the first pick. He's got 9 turnovers in his first 7 starts. How much longer can it go on? Taking the break on CBS Sports.
Yeah, I thought Carter Blackburn and Randy Cross were just dousing the gas. Like, please keep watching this game. We're going to add this quarterback controversy. Hey, Texter 3324. Hi, Mitch and Matt. Well, hello, 3324. What gives me confidence in BYU's 3-0 start is that the defense is solid this year, and it will keep BYU in any game. The offense is still up and down, but has more big play ability than last year. Also, BYU has more depth this year and better team leadership. Go Cougs. Thanks. Thanks, 3324. Appreciate that.
Some good points in there. The leadership, I think that's tangible just by the nature of better chemistry and better continuity. I think there is more depth. Defensively, that is far and away the brightest spotlight on this program right now. This defense has taken leaps and bounds. We've talked about this before, Mitch, but it bears repeating. Last year, the offense was so bad in so many categories that you almost swept the defense and their poor play under the rug. Yep. Because the defense wasn't very good last year. They were, in some respects, just as bad as the year before. They fired someone over how bad that defense was. Mm-hmm. Now, I think we all understood, Cougar Nation and BYU fans, it's first year with Jay Hill. He's getting his recruiting up and going. He's implementing his scheme. No need to panic. But last year's defense was bad. It was not a good defense. And when you have a bad defense and a bad offense, you're not going bowling. And that's what happened in 2023. This year, though, Mitch, this defense, man, they hold Wyoming to what? 200 and some odd yards, 217, 77 rush yards. They did okay on third down. Could have been better in that regard. Red zone, they did give up 2 touchdowns in the red zone on 2 trips from Wyoming. That's not ideal. Not as good as it was against SMU. But, man, this defense is much better. The top-end talent is playing at a high level. Tyler Batty, he's playing like a first-team Big 12 player. Jacob Robinson, I think he's playing near or at first-team level. Jack Kelly also in the mix there. When you got a dude at every level playing all-conference football, you're a dang good defense. And I love that point that this defense is going to put you in position to be in a lot of football games.
Texter 3926, why did they call so many run plays when every running quarterback has never made it through a full season without getting injured? Well, your running back depth chart was Miles Davis, who had nowhere near the success he did against Wyoming 2 years ago. Sione Aimoa, who you knew if you were listening to us throughout Cougar Sports Saturday and our fall camp reports. And then Pokai Honga. That was your running backs. And I would probably guess, Matt, a lot of Cougar Nation did not know those guys until probably game day. So you're probably going to turn to a guy that in Retzlaff who can run the football. And if you don't want an injury to happen, and I understand that, but there's also that peace of mind that you do feel like you've got a lot more options at quarterback, and you got to have another number to account for on the opposing defenses. So I think they're still going to be selective with Jake going forward, but there was opportunities in Wyoming's defense where they wanted to take advantage. I think this week against K-State, kickoff at 8:30 here on KSL and ESPN, they're going to be a little more selective, but if the moment an opportunity poses itself, they're going to turn to Jake and let him run. They cannot be afraid of thinking someone's going to get hurt. They got to just let him loose and play freely.
801-525. Wait, I think I got the number wrong, Mitch. 801-575-8255. What is holding you back from getting on the Jake Retzlaff bandwagon? I want to hear a Cougar fan call in and give me a good reason. Someone did text in, shared some thoughts, 3091. You guys got to pump the brakes on Retzlaff. Okay, first off, it's me. I'm the one who's defending Retzlaff at a higher clip than Mitch, so don't get on Mitch here, but he refuses to set his 3 feet to throw. He throws a 5-yard pass, 90 miles an hour. Throw a catchable ball. Also, the schedule's been terrible. SMU is much worse than I expected. Wyoming might be the worst in the FBS. When he turns it over 3 times in each of the next few games, what will you say then? Well, if he turns it over 3 times in the next few games, then
he's getting benched.
Then he's getting benched, and let's go to Gary. I'm not saying he has a license to play regardless of his performance. That's not the argument. And Aaron Roderick said that a few weeks ago, Mitch, that nobody on this team has a license to just make mistakes. What I am saying, though, is if you're winning games, you need to show some respect because at the end of the day, you're about winning football games. He's 3-0, and yeah, the schedule has not been great. I get that. But he has shown improvement, and at the end of the day, it's that experience you noted at Laramie that I think bothers me a little bit, where Jake almost throws for 300 yards, multiple touchdowns, running the ball. He looked very good. It's not the best performance we've ever seen from a BYU quarterback. I'm not saying that. But nothing in that performance made you feel like at any moment the train's going to come off the track, so we need the next guy to be ready. And yet when the next guy came in, there's a celebration like, see? This is who we wanted all along. The starter's a bum. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I think fan bases need to cut out. So just give Jake his kudos when he plays well, because it just feels like it's always, he's throwing a 5-yard dart 80 miles an hour. He threw that one pick. What about all the great plays he made, too? Because he converted a great 4th down in a tight window to Keanu Hill, threw the great touchdown pass to Darius Lassiter. What about all that? We're just going to sweep that away because there was a couple bad plays? It's like, come on. Jake's played good football. Has he played great football? No. But he's played good football, and the dude deserves some props for that.
And if he plays good football this week, I think that silences a lot of people because Kansas State, number 14 in the country, or number 13, in the AP Top 25 poll, undefeated team, one of the preseason favorites in the Big 12 Conference. But at the same time, if he struggles completely and looks out of place, make the change.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the thing. It's like, I think
you're not married to
even
him,
though
game
it's
in and game out.
Even though it's, yes, the opponents have been weak, Wyoming and Southern Illinois in particular. But the great thing about being in a power league now is that you will get a true sense of what these guys are. And, in Jake, if he struggles completely at Kansas State, looks outmatched, got to turn to Gary.
And let's not pretend
I think the staff will do that. I think the staff will do it.
I agree. And let's not pretend, too, that there's been opponents in past years where the BYU quarterback play was suspect and they lost. What were we doing then when Baylor Romney and Jaron Hall lost to South Florida down in Tampa a couple years ago? That team was no good. What about the home losses against Northern Illinois and UMass? You can't just say You can't pick and choose, Mitch, in arguments. Oh, well, the schedule's soft.
Yeah.
The schedule's been soft in other years, and we've lost those football games.
Yep.
Did we demand for Zach in, 2018 to be benched?
We sat through 14-0 last year against Sam Houston, who was terrible last season. 14-0.
What about 2019 when Zach couldn't move the ball against San Diego State? Were we demanding him to be benched then? Like, it's college football. There's ebbs and flows, but if you're winning games, that's where the focus should be. And BYU's 3-0.
And that's all you can ask for. And I think there's a new appreciation for, wins.
Yeah.
After going through 5 and 7, there should be a new appreciation for wins. And BYU's got their toughest test to date this season, Saturday night against number 13 Kansas State. 8:30 kick inside LaVell Edwards Stadium. We will have you covered with Cougar Sports Saturday from noon to 3, and then kickoff at 8:30, pregame at 6:30. Right here on KSL.
Quick thoughts on the matchup. Do you think BYU's got a chance?
I do. I think they've got a great chance. I think this is going to be a game that comes down right to the wire. Late night magic's going to happen for BYU potentially.
It's a great kick spot for BYU. 8:30. They're good in those night games, so we'll have you covered, and we'll have you all the way up to BYU and Kansas State right here on KSL News Radio, your legacy home of the BYU Cougars. For Mitch Harper, Matt Baiamonte, have a great night.